Hi, everyone. I hope God's been blessing you today. Today is January 25th, 2023. I'm going to talk about what happened in my life between the years of 2011 and 2018-ish in this video. So now my last video, I ended up explaining that me and the boys had left my, boyfriend who was abusive, and we got our own apartment in a couple towns away. And, I was still working in Boston at the time. And when we moved into this new place, I had to make sure I had enough money to pay for everything on my own because now I didn't have any help. And so I got an extra job working at Walmart. So I was right now working 7 days a week, two jobs. But it was worth it to get away from the emotional and verbal abuse. So my boys were in high school. My oldest graduated in 2011, and my youngest graduated in 2013. Now, I had been working in Boston since 2010 by this time, and I absolutely love this job. My 20th year high school reunion was coming up in 2010 back in Tennessee. And then what else was going on? Oh, and then also my youngest went to Kentucky over the summer with one of his friends during 2010, and he was learning about growing food, farming, self-defense, and stuff like that. And there was a lot of things going on in 2010, but back in let's see, after my son graduated, my oldest son in 2011, he had gotten a job at Walmart as well. And he was working there trying to figure out like if and when he wanted to go to college. He had just graduated high school. And then by now, everything, is going well with my youngest. He's now in 11th grade and he will be graduating in a couple of years. And we had no issues since we moved from my ex-boyfriend. Like he never tried to find us or anything, never bothered us. So it was pretty nice. And then probably somewhere in 2011 is when I ended up finding my friend who moved away back in 2002, the one that lived with me. I'll link that video in the description box if you missed that explanation. Let's see, I think I found him through Facebook. So I had a couple friends that were like, "Oh, you should put, a thing on Facebook." This was back when I was trying to find my dad. And then I didn't really once I found my dad, I didn't really use Facebook that much. But then for some reason, I decided to go on Facebook and I was, going through the walls or whatever. And I had happened to see a comment and it said this guy's name. And I thought to myself, I wonder if this is the same person I know, because it did say he was in Maine. And so I'm like, So I sent him a personal private message and I said, "Hey, did you happen to live in Rhode Island? And do you know a girl named Tracy?" And then he said, "Yes." And then I said, "Oh my gosh, do you have a son?" And he said, "Yeah." And then we've come to figure out it was the same person that I had lost contact with. And so I gave him my phone number and he called me right away. And it was so funny. It was so weird to hear his voice after all that time. But it was great. We started talking. We were probably calling each other at the beginning we started calling like once or twice a week, talking to each other, and then it just get into like we were talking to each other every night. He'd get home, and call me, and then we'd talk till like mad early in the morning, but I'd have to get up really early in the morning. I was pretty tired driving to work, but I didn't care. I didn't care. I was just happy to talk to him and stuff. So we did a lot of talking for a while. And at that time, now I had been working at this job since 2010, and I never took a day off. I didn't take a vacation, a day off. I worked the holidays. And so when I found him was probably like the end of 2011. And it was going to my very first vacation. Like I had already made plans for a week off. I didn't even know where I was going to go. Probably nowhere. I probably would have just stayed home, and not have to go to work. It was been a vacation, just not driving, all that time, all the time. But I had told him I was going on vacation. I said, "Hey, do you care if I come and visit you? Because I haven't seen you in such a long time." And he was actually pretty shocked because he said that, the whole time he was up there, nobody ever came and visited. So he was surprised that I was going to come visit him. But I'm like, I love driving all over the place. I don't care. I've never seen Maine. I want to come up there. And so he was like, all right, you can come if you want. So I made plans, got a hotel and everything. And what happened? I got up there and I got to the hotel. And then once I got to the hotel, I called him and I let him know, like, where was I? And he came over and met me there. And then, man, when I opened the door to see him after all this time, like, we hugged or whatever. And he, first of all, looked exactly the same. So funny. And it was as if we never lost a day. Like it was like I opened the door and like I just saw him yesterday. 10 years did not go by. Like it I knew that this was like my best friend like ever, because I'm like, wow, that's so crazy that we can go all these years, but it was like you never skipped a beat. um and it was great. It was wonderful to see him. I was so happy to see him. And then, oh my gosh, so I was there a week. We had a blast. He brought me everywhere in Maine. Like we went all over the place. It was just so much fun. um you know I think because he lived there so long and he had, gone all over Maine or whatever, he wanted to show me like all these places. And I don't know, it was awesome. It was awesome because I was just like going wherever. And we were like already best friends. So like everywhere we went to eat, he'd be like, "Oh, this place is great." And we have like the same kind of taste in food and stuff. So I'd be like, "What do you get here?" And then whatever he got, I would get it. And it was delicious. And then it was so funny. But the vacation, of course, was coming to an end, and there was probably a couple days left. And he brought me to this really small town. It's like pretty high up in Maine, and it's really small. But there was like this place he wanted to bring me because he said, "Oh, there's like this really nice waterfall here. I want to show you." So we went up there, and we were feeding squirrels and everything. It was so beautiful over there. It was like a little state park or something, but it was just like really secluded, and it was just beautiful. And there was really pretty waterfalls, I'm not gonna lie. And so that was great. And then we, headed back to the hotel, and I knew there was, I had one day left, and I didn't want to leave. Like I was starting to feel really depressed, and I was getting quiet because I knew I was going to have to leave. And so I called my boss and I asked her if I could have like another week because I've never taken a vacation. Like, she knew that I was going to see him. And I mean, I couldn't stop talking about it once I found him and everything. So she knew where I was. And I got along with my boss. She was very nice. And so she said I could have another week. So I was excited. I told the hotel I was going to stay another week. And I told him I was going to stay another week. And we were like super happy. And so he stayed at the hotel with me the second week. And we just did like so much stuff. We just kept, hanging out and going places and seeing all of Maine. And I think we went to like a casino or something when we were there. But we went to a mall. Like he brought me to different places. I think he brought me to this place called Bangor, Maine. Bangor, Maine? I don't know. I think it's called Bangor, Maine. But it was by the water, and it was just like, I don't know. Everything was just so great while we were there. So now, of course, I can't stay there forever, even though I want to, because it's very nice of me. and I want to stay there, but I can't. So I know, all right, now it's time for me to go home. And, I tell him, we got to stay in contact. We're not going to lose touch with each other this time. We need to stay in contact. So we kept talking to each other and everything. He eventually came and seen me. And then I had went back again to see him. And when I went back the second time, he had a cat. Oh my God, this cat's so adorable. And something was wrong with the cat, and we went to the vet, and I helped him like get the medicine that the cat needed to make him feel better and everything. And then I remember like he said something to me about, would I ever think about moving to Maine, you know? And I immediately said, no, that's not going to happen. Like, and he was like, why? And I said, I've been in so many relationships that, my ex-husband had screwed me over with all the bills, I had lost all my stuff. Um, went through a lot of stuff with that, and he ruined my credit. And then the other guy that, that happened there, he took all the stuff. And I just said, like, so many times I had to start over. And this time in the place I was, everything, I said, no, I'm not going to sacrifice anymore for guys. If they want to be with me, they can be with me. I'm not moving. So, I told him that, and I said, listen, I know, it's not your fault or whatever. And he said he understood, because he had lost, he had girlfriends there, and they had screwed him over, and he lost all his stuff, or he'd have to get out and then they would keep all his stuff. So he knew how it felt to have to start over. I really like where I live. I like my job, and I don't want to leave. And so, you know, he said he understood or whatever. And then of course we kept talking over the phone and everything. And then one day, I think I don't know what it was, but we both were like, well, he said something like, maybe we should try dating each other. And I was like, I don't want to lose our friendship, you know because to me friendship means more. Like, I'd rather be friends with them forever than to try and go out together and then it doesn't work out, and then I can't even talk to them after that. And so we talked a little bit about it for a while, for a couple months or whatever, and then he said, no, I think we should, try it and everything. And then so, a few months later, he said he was going to come down and move in with us. And, and that's what happened. I went up there and got him, and, he moved in, and we had bought some furniture together. So that way, like, everything wasn't mine. So he could feel like it was his apartment too. And so, we did that at the beginning, and everything was going great. He didn't look for a job right away, because he had saved up a bunch of money, and he was using that money so we could like hang out and stuff before. And he was getting to learn like where I lived, and and trying to find like where does he want to work and stuff. And so that was fine. Everything was going great at this time. Like, um his son would come over, because his son lived in Rhode Island, and so he could see him more often now, because it wasn't as far for him to come to my house than he was to go all the way to Maine. So he was very happy to be able to come more often, and then it got them to be closer together. And then my youngest was a senior that year, and his son was having issues at school in Rhode Island. So you know we had talked to him about like, maybe you can come live with us, because at this time he was probably like 16, 17 years old. And I said, maybe it would, help you to get out of like the school you're in, to come over here and try and, finish high school here if he wanted to, or whatever. But he said he wanted to. And so we ended up, now by this time, it was probably like 2013, my youngest had graduated, and we were petitioning to court for custody of his son. And we won the case, and we ended up having him move in with us. And then my oldest was still working at Walmart. I think it had been like 4 years now. And he was in the process of like deciding whether he wanted to stay at Walmart and go to college or just go to college. And so he worked at Walmart. He decided to go to college for computer programming, and he ended up graduating in 2017. And then he got a job. He got a job as a computer data analyst, and he worked while he was in school. He was working, he was helping. He was a tutor. He had a job at the school, and then I think he was also doing like Uber or something. He had his hands full during the school years. And then my youngest was trying to figure out, because he had just graduated, he didn't know what he wanted to do. So he was trying to find a job at that time. And so everything was going fine. And in the meantime, me and my best friend were like dating, and everything's going good. We're living together and making a life together. And man, it just seemed like it was all falling into place. And then between 2014 and 2017, we started to have some issues with the apartment that I lived in. So now I moved into that apartment in 2011 when I left my ex-boyfriend, and he moved in 2012. So we had been there a couple of years together, and there were some problems, with the landlord. We were having problems with the landlord. We were problems with him fixing like the windows. The windows there was so much, there was cracks around the windows. There was a lot of wind coming in. We'd lose the heat. That it wasn't warm enough. It seemed like there wasn't insulation. There was a lot of flooding in the basement. There was just a lot of stuff going on with this apartment. And it seemed like no matter what we did to try to get this guy to like fix it, he would always like, kind of push us off. So eventually we find out from the landlord that he's thinking about selling the house and moving away to a different state. And so me and my, boyfriend at the time, we're like talking about it. We're like, why don't we buy it? Why don't we see if we can buy it? And then we can fix up the house, because we love the neighbors upstairs. And we thought, okay, if we can, it was a 2 apartment house. And I was like, if we could own this, then they could just pay us rent, and then they didn't have to go anywhere. We love them and they love us, and we all get along. So we could just keep them there. And it would have been like a really good situation. So we're thinking, okay, well, let's talk to the landlord. So I talked to the landlord. The landlord says, okay, I'm willing to sell it to you. He gives us a price. And he says, if you can get approved for a loan, let me know, and then we'll talk about it. And I said, okay. So he gives us a price, and I call, around, try to get a loan. I wanted a loan like, 20 or 30,000 more, because I wanted to fix up the things that was wrong with the house. And I get approved. And I call him and tell him that we're approved. Well, now he started to say he wanted more money for the house. He said he told us a different price. And I'm like, no, you told us this price. That's the price I asked for. And he was like, no, I'm thinking I'm going to get this. So because he was messing around, I said, well, let's call the Department of Health in our town, find out if they can come here and give us look at the house and see if there's any, health issues or whatever, and what we'd have to fix. So they come and they find a whole bunch of issues that we don't even know about. Like, I guess there's a leak in the roof, and there's like so much stuff that they came up with. And they ended up sending him, paperwork to tell him like all this stuff needed to be fixed. Well, now he refuses to sell the house to us. He's mad because, we had done that. But really it was so we could figure out if we could, pay for the extra money that he wanted. But in the long run, he's refusing to call us back. He's like refused to pretty much talk to me, every time I was trying to like get a hold of him. And so I said, well, forget it. We'll just let him fix all the stuff that he wants, because now the health department tells him that he can't sell the house until he fixes all the stuff.
So in the meantime, he's trying to raise the rent for me. And I don't know if he was trying to raise the rent for the people upstairs, but he definitely was trying to raise our rent. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. We ended up getting engaged and we were going to get married in 2018. So since he wasn't willing to sell us this house and we had already gotten approved for a loan, we decided to get a realtor and start looking for a house. So we started looking for houses. And in February of 2017, we finally got a house. We got approved. We, got in and everything. And we had like a housewarming party, and I think in like June or something of that year. And I'll put a picture here of the house that we ended up buying. I'm going to stop the video here for today. I know this is a short video today, but I just wanted to get through this because the next couple of videos is going to be kind of crazy because you're going to start to understand a whole bunch of stuff. And this is where God really comes into me and my husband's lives and everything like that. So I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next video.